Indonesia's top rescue official says the missing AirAsia plane could be at the bottom of the sea. It was en route from Indonesia to Singapore when it disappeared from radars somewhere over the Java Sea early on Sunday morning. 162 people were on board, including 18 children. The AirAsia CEO has described the incident as his worst nightmare. A massive search operation was launched with helicopters and rescue vessels deployed to the area by Indonesia, Singapore and also Malaysia. Officials say the pilot requested permission to climb over a storm just before contact was lost. Well, the missing plane is an Airbus A320 and it had been in operation for just over 6 years. Most of the passengers were Indonesians. Other citizens on board were from South Korea, the UK, France, Malaysia and also Singapore. AirAsia says the aircraft had undergone maintenance over a month ago. Joining me now, though, is Captain Richard Woodward. He's a former Vice President of the Australian and International Pilots Association. Thanks very much for coming on to the programme this morning and talking with us. There is an awful lot of speculation, but in your opinion, what are the probable causes of this crash?
Oh, well, given the nature of the requests and the weather, there's only three probables. One is that they've had an inverted counter with a thunderstorm, or they've suffered severe icing as a result of a thunderstorm, or there's some other activity, maybe a bomb. We still can't exclude that yet.
Some people have said or speculated that because the pilot said he was going to fly over the storm just before contact was lost, that he may have been flying too slow. Is that a possibility, do you think?
That would be a possibility, but it wouldn't be as a direct result of him climbing. There'd be some failure in the aircraft to cause that. It's not uncommon for pilots to request a climb when there's some turbulence at the altitude you're at and you request a climb to try and get out of the turbulence. But I understand there are other aircraft in the area and that climb clearance was refused.
Is it surprising, given the extreme weather that was there, that he didn't turn back?
No, you'll always try and get around the weather. It is wet season up there, which means it's a very tropical environment, lots of thunderstorms. That's typical at this time of the year. So what happens is you have to pick your way around the storms. And if they're a long way, they're a long way. So you go 100 miles, 200 kilometres off track to try and avoid the weather.
Indonesia's top rescue official says that most likely now that the plane is at the bottom of the sea. Presumably that's something that you go along with.
I would agree with that. The aircraft can't stay airborne for more than about 4 or 5 hours, so it would have run out of fuel. So I think it's crashed. We can assume that as a fact. All we need to know now is where it is. And given the track between Surabaya and Changi is basically up over the strait, so it'll be in the water somewhere.
And what are the possibilities of survivors, do you think?
It depends how the aircraft came down. If it came down under control, there is a small chance of survivors, but the window closes very quickly when you're exposed to the elements. If it crashed in the sea, there's very little chance of finding any survivors, particularly as time goes on.
And in terms of the rescue operation, the salvage operation, trying to pinpoint where this plane may be, what sort of time limits are attached to that?
Well, it'll be a search and rescue operation for the first 24 to 48 hours. And then sometime after that, it'll become what's called a recovery operation. They'll be looking for the wreckage and they'll assume there's no survivors because of their life expectancy exposed in the sea, for instance. And then they'll be trying to find the wreckage and find out what happened to the aircraft.
And just on a general point, Mr. Woodward, it is the third time this year that Malaysia has lost a plane. Nothing can be read into that trend, can it?
No, absolutely not. These are independent events, and it's just unfortunate it's happened to a Malaysian carrier. We don't know what happened, but if it's a severe thunderstorm encounter or the aircraft had severe icing, or in fact it may have broken up in a storm, which is incredibly difficult to do. The aircraft are very, very strong, so it's just incredibly unfortunate accident as far as we know. It could also, I hate to say, be pilot error. That can't be eliminated yet.
OK, well, we've run out of time, but thank you very much for giving us your thoughts on this. That was Captain Richard Woodward. Thank you.